Hello, good evening, friends. Welcome back to DevTalks. My name is Akash Sharma. I am from DSC KIIT, and today we have an amazing guest with us. Uh, Let me see. I'll tell you some few points about him. Guess his name. I'm sure you know, but for those of you who are joining just now, or those of our subscribers who just got here by the YouTube notification, let's see if you can guess him. Uh, our next guest is actually a program manager at HackerEarth, but he has also been there with Amazon for 2 years. He worked there for the as a business operations specialist and ensured some good quality product development. And currently, he's been delivering hackathons for HackerEarth, and he has been very active in building developer communities. So, if you have guessed him, then please join us in welcoming Mr. Cherish Santoshi from HackerEarth. I'll put sir on the screen now. Please welcome him. Hello, sir.
Hi Akash. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for that
Please.
introduction. That's
I
great.
tried my best.
Great. Okay.
Uh,
So I should just jump right in, right?
yes, sir.
Great. Okay. I'll start presenting, and from there in I'll introduce myself. Great. So as you most of you guys know, hi guys. The topic is hackathons and a new way to accelerate your career, right? But before we begin about talking about hackathons, I just wanted to take a quick detour and introduce myself, right? My name is Cherish Santoshi, as you guys have known so far. I come from a very tiny city called Chandigarh in upper northern India. Chandigarh is a very small planned city and has a lot of student developer communities around it, right? So there's a huge collaboration that happens and a great industrial exposure there. From my college, I started my college and my schooling. I had my schooling in college in Chandigarh, and in my last year of college, I led a Google Student Ambassador program for my college. I was the lead for GSA program, and much like the organizers of this webinar. And after Google's GSA lead program, I joined Amazon for 2 years. For the first year of my tenure at Amazon, I worked primarily around data and data operations and finding insights from that data, making sure those insights are actionable and actually have an impact. For the second year of my Amazon tenure, I realized that I wanted to build something and actually optimize and automate a few of the redundant steps that I saw a lot of business operations specialists doing. So that was highly effective, and I managed to save a significant amount of time and also budget for our team by automating a few scripts. I automated using JavaScript, Flask, and also HTML, CSS. From there, as you can see, there's a team. That's my HackerEarth team. We form a team called HackerEarth Programs, and this is where I work right now. But before anything, right? Like before I joined Amazon, I wanted to tell you my personal story and a challenge that I had to overcome. So, right, when I was in college, I realized there was a massive college industry gap. As soon as I started to apply for a few internships and interviews, right, I realized that the things that they had asked, that the industry asked for or the company asked for, is very different from what we are taught entirely in college. If there is domain knowledge, there is an equivalent amount of soft skills or actually analytical skills, and even 21st century skills that we were not made aware of. So I realized that, and I sat down with a few of my friends, and I realized, hey, are you also facing the same problem? Are you also realizing that there are few skills that we need to gather before we are actually completely employable and even desired in the market? So lo and behold, most of them said yes. Uh, these are the four things that are 21st century skills. If you Google them, you'll realize that these are the skills that every developer needs as for them to get hired, or even for them to change companies or even get promoted. Right. A few of the things that that come out very strongly are critical thinking, creativity, communication, or collaboration. So four C's theoretically. are what you need to be a good developer and to get hired or even to get change jobs and get promoted, right? So we realized this, and then and we realized that we in college we had not been taught something like this, and this is the first time we had landed upon such a concept. So my friends that I had, so these are my friends, or actually my team on the left. So that's me, Ayush, and Ravdeep. These are people I met during a talk that I was delivering for GSA programs
Uh,
in Chitwara University. And
Hello,
here
sir.
I realized, sorry, Akash.
I cannot see your screen right now. Can you please check that it's shared on StreamYard?
Sure, 1 second.
Okay, now it's there.
Great, okay, fair. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Awesome. So just quick recap about myself. I come from a place called Chandigarh. From there, I joined Google. From there, I landed a Google Student Ambassador program, and I led a GSA chapter. From there, I landed at Amazon, and then at Hackathons. So these the industry gap that I told you about, and these are the four skills that I realized were missing in all of us. And these, again, like I said, collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. Uh, on my So this is my team on the left. So that's me, Ayush, and Ravdeep. These are the people I met during my GSA talk at Chutkara University, and these were the people who also noticed the same thing and were facing the same issues. So together we got together. Together we realized that we have to do something about this, and it has to be something urgently and outside college, because college clearly doesn't uh, realize that the importance of these skills and are not easily consumable in the curriculum. So we participated in a hackathon, and we managed to build an app for Chandigarh city. Although we didn't win that hackathon, what we did was we took that prototype, and took it to the government. We made a few changes after realizing it, after realizing what the problems of the city are, and after interacting with the community and also the government. And we realized that our MVP, or our prototype, actually reached 1 million users, because the prototype that we had built for the government was soon adopted by Chandigarh administration as a module that can be added into my smart city app, which was an initiative that was being promoted heavily in those times as a result of PMO Smart India campaign. To know more about how I built an MVP that reached 1 million users, it's a pretty interesting story. I've written a blog about this. There's a link down below that you can go and read on at your own time. Right? So after we realized that these are the things that we need to know, we participated in hackathons, and we realized that these rapid prototyping and building products is the right way to actually go ahead and find yourself more employable, right? So after this, I got a job offer from Amazon, and that's where my career began, right? Okay, so all this happened because of a hackathon, right? Now I wanted to touch base on what is a hackathon, why should we participate in, uh, how to prepare for it, and where can you find them. Like those are the fundamentals that you need to know before you go ahead and actually participate in a hackathon. So the first thing is that hackathons are new age career launches. Hackathons theoretically and in very critically and very importantly simulate the experience and even the working culture that you really need to adapt to when you join a company. If you're joining as a fresher, you'll see that a lot of projects that you're given will have very short timelines and will have like real business problems, right? So not only you'll have to solve something which is very technical, but also solve it in a way that it makes complete business sense. You'll have to build an idea in a very short span and sell it to your idea to your managers or your hiring or your product managers uh, for that to be actually deployed, right? And one of the misconceptions about hackathons are that it's only for technical people like developers or coders, and also it needs to be an on-site event. So while those two are, I mean, I understand why they come across as a very super, like very solid myths, but the reality is that you don't necessarily need to be a technical person to actually participate in a hackathon. To demonstrate that is that a lot of people, when they participate in a hackathon, they realize that every time they build a hack, they need to sell it to their jury. They need to explain the business relevance and the impact of their hack. Now, this is where technical people who are usually, and I'm just generalizing here, not accurately, are unable to express and communicate very clearly. So, a lot of non-technical people like MBAs or somebody who's from a business background, economics background, or designers, right, step in and explain the UI and also the business relevance, right? And this is where everything comes together, and you realize that hackathons is for everyone. The second thing I wanted to mention is that it's not really an on-site event all the time, for the fact that with new age and with our current scenarios, it has moved into a completely virtual and online event. So you can take part in a hackathon virtually, sitting at your own home with your friends at theirs, and collaborate and communicate with them to actually submit a hack, right? So these are the hackathons, and I'll touch base on why hackathons are actually career launchers, how hackathons really are the new means to hire for a lot of companies. So why must you participate in a hackathon, right? Why must you invest your time in something which where you go ahead and use traditional methods of getting hired? So, like I said, right, principally, the things that you need to work in a company are you need to be innovative. You need to think on those four principles that we just discussed. You need to collaborate, communicate, think critically, and also uh, ask of build creative solutions. In a hackathon, the minute you get a problem statement, you start assessing the problem statement very analytically and very critically. You dissect what exactly is the problem and how can you solve it. Once you thought critically about the problem, you also move on to actually communicating and collaborating with your team and thinking how you can build a creative solution. The reason it's a team activity, and why we have separate teams solving the same problem is that uh, everybody comes with their creative solving abilities. Everybody has their own perspective, and that's what the teams need. That's what the companies need. What happens at companies is that if you've stayed in a company for way too long, you get a tunnel vision. You realize the constraints that have been built around you, the systems that you worked with, or the tools that you're aware of have a lot of constraints and restraints, right? And they build on you. So that limits your ability to think freely and creatively and come up with a solution. And that's why they do hackathons. Now, once you realize that there is a huge business ROI for any company to go ahead and ask the developer community for a solution, you'll realize why and what you need to do to actually be there and solve for them. So the chances that you get to participate once you participate in a hackathon, you get to innovate, right? Because, like I said, innovation is something that they rely on whenever they approach a developer community. They expect you to work under pressure. Hackathons are time bound, and they're usually 24 to 48-hour events, and they expect you to come up with something really creative and really ingenious in those times. You have to be creative. You have to learn something new, and you can also network with your mentors, your peers, your jury, and if everything goes well and the jury likes you, you can get hired. Other than that, I also feel one of the most common and most popular reasons for people to participate in a hackathon is that to earn prizes and incubation opportunities. You just learned how my idea got incubated, well, adopted really, but how one company at Hackathon can see why your idea needs to be funded, or needs more eyes, needs better manpower, resources. And if your hack is great, people are more than happy to fund you and to support you. And of course, there are cash prizes that you can win. So there is a side income that you can have as students. I know a few developers in my community who've earned more, maybe 3 to 6 lakhs while they were studying in college, just by hackathons. So that's another benefit. So just uh, let me take you a quick overview on how to prepare for a hackathon, right? So considering you're a first timer at a hackathon, this is your first hackathon. Your first problem would probably be how to find or actually build a team. So if you have a team already, or if you have some people that you've worked with before, like I did, it's easy, right? You can ask them to register on the platform and you start working together. In case you do not find a team, it can be really hard, especially in times like these when there are no on-site events happening, to find teams for yourself. So what Hacker Earth as a platform does, which I really like, is that you can join the platform and find your team based on the skill sets that every member carries. So you can look at their profile, see what skill sets you need for your hack, and vice versa. They can also look at your skills and see if you can add value to their team and collaborate to build a team. The second thing that you should prepare to actually win your best hackathon is participate in various hackathons. Now, what are these various hackathons? I'll touch upon later. But theoretically, every hackathon has a different use case. Every hackathon comes in a different way. Every hackathon has a different approach that you should use to actually solve for it. Now, once you realize that, your approach becomes more streamlined and very targeted, right? So you should get a taste of all the hackathons that you can get, and then uh, realize and then participate in as many hackathons as you can. Excuse me. Right. The third point, which is seek mentorship. So this is a common mistake that a lot of developers do. Once they've built a hack, it is when they seek mentorship, and then they realize some of the problems that they had solved. They had approached it incorrectly right from the beginning, or it is too late or too much to actually go back and do the right thing now. So having a mentor right from the beginning gives you the advantage for you to focus on what is right and not what is convenient. And if you have that mentorship right from the beginning, you'll realize your ideas and your hack are very, very solid and proper, something which can be adopted very, very quickly. The fourth point is that you need to get feedback and perspective, right? Once you've built a hack, you should get some feedback from your beta users. These beta users could be somebody from your team, your extended team, your clubs, your technical friends, your family, and understand their perspective, right? Like feedback without perspective is not as powerful when you add perspective into it. What perspective does is that it gives you the context that where every person or every user is coming from. So if there is a grandmother who's using a product, how they interact with your platform or how they interact with your product versus if there is a teenager who's interacting with your app, both of these things are equally important, and you need to make sure that both of these perspectives are kept into account. The next thing is that once you've built the hack, I strongly encourage my developer community to promote themselves on social media. And once you promote yourself on social media, not only, well, you've practically won. That even if your hack doesn't win, you've theoretically put it out on social media that this is something cool that you built, and you'll find more collaborative opportunities. You'll find companies that are looking into your product, and you'll also find the companies that who hosted the hackathon sharing your hack, right? You can tag us or your organizers, or even the company that you're building the hack for. They're more than happy to share these things. It's a great PR activity for them as well. Once you've build these hacks, and well, if you won or not won, regardless, you should update your resume, put in everything that you worked on, put in everything that you won, and repeat the entire process. So what that does is, with every hackathon that you participate in, you come out as a stronger, more focused, and more aligned individual, and a better programmer altogether. Okay, so where can I find it, right? What's the next step? Where should I find the next hackathon? Okay, so the next hackathon that you should, like, the first link that I see here, hackerrock.com/hackathon, everything that I've spoken about and everything I should be covering, but we're not covering it because of lack of time. You can find that link here, and every resource that you can possibly think of, every question that you'll ever have for hackathons, you can find it at hackers.com/hackathon. To find the hackathons that are right for you, you can go to hackerits.com/challenges. There are barely any times when there are no hackathons available there, and they're very interesting, very amazing hackathons that are always live there that you can find according to your skill set. Right now, for you to find the right hackathon, you need to know the kind of hackathons. Right. And this is what I meant, right? That every hackathon has a different approach and a different use case. So once you approach a hackathon, you'll realize it's either an innovation based hackathon or a product based or a hiring based. Now, what's a product innovation based hackathon? An innovation based hackathon is something with an open theme, something which encourages you to build anything as long as it is tied down to something innovative, something that the industry or the world can be helped at. The second part, the second kind of hackathons that are product-based hackathons, these require specific skills, right? Like a lot of some of the product-based hackathons that were going live on Hacker Earth right now was one from Microsoft Azure. So if you're an Azure developer or a cloud developer, it makes sense for you to participate in a hackathon like that, right? These require specific skills, and these also give you the edge whenever you're applying for a certification or actually applying for cloud-based roles or AI-based roles or ML-based jobs, because you've not only worked on them, you've actually worked on a real problem for a different company altogether, and that's highly beneficial for anybody to get hired. The third one, and that's the most interesting part, is that a hiring hackathon. So hiring hackathons are the new way, or the new means to hire. A lot of companies have realized that hackathons very well simulate the experiences and the challenges that a developer goes through once he joins the company. And once he joins the company, he has to hack or build products in a very short stipulated time, or think of the business relevance and pitch their idea to the jury, right? There are so many people who've gotten hired via hackathons. And hackathons are a for sure testament that somebody who's done well in a hackathon will probably do well in the company as well, because, well, the experiences are pretty much the same. I learned today that some of the organizers of this webinar were also hired via hiring hackathon. The next point, these are two people that were also hired using through a hiring hackathon. This is Soham Dikshit and Rishabh Singh. They participated in an American Express Amex hackathon, Code Street hackathon, if I'm not mistaken. And now they both, although they're both students, they're right now intern at American Express, and they soon will be full time. So that again goes on to prove that if you're well versed with hackathons, you can do well and get hired. So these are the people who got hired by the companies who organized the hackathon. And these are two people that are Saurabh Bhandari and Vanshika. They're both subject matter expert at Hacker Earth. They're in my team. They both participated in a lot of hackathons and challenges that Hacker Earth posted. So we saw value in them. And even though they, like, regardless whether you win or not, your zeal and your grit comes across very strongly. And companies will find you and will find a way to actually get you on board. They're both in my team, and I'm super proud of them. I guess their experience with hackathons and challenges have truly helped them a lot. So, in conclusion, I would just like to end it with the point that a lot of people think that success or getting hired, for that matter, any goal is a straightforward way. You know, if you actually realize that it's not really the first picture, which is a straight line, but it's also all the squiggly lines, and the squiggly lines tell you that it's not never really a straight way, and there are a lot of shortcomings, a lot of challenges that you go through until you finally come out of it. What hackathons do is that they, through rapid prototyping and time constraint based innovations, they accelerate this squiggly line growth for you. So you go through various challenges as you would in a squiggly line, and then you'll realize that uh, if you can overcome these problems in 24 hours or 48 hours, you're very likely to overcome them in maybe a month or two, which is the case once you get hired. So with that, I would just like to say that hackathons are great for you to actually get hired, not only as an intern but also as a professional developer from one company to another, and also be a better programmer, right? So if, like Tim Ferriss says, that I pick up my tasks, that I win no matter what happens. That even if I don't win in the end, I come across with somebody who has learned something and has gained a little value. Hackathons are like that. Hackathons teach you how to be a better programmer, even though you do or you do not win it. And with that, I just wanted to conclude. If you wanted to get in touch with me, or if you have questions, I'm open to that. I'll just stop sharing my screen.
That was very insightful. Okay, I guess now I would request our viewers to start dropping all their questions in the chat below. And meanwhile, they put their questions. I would like to ask you my own question that uh, recently in December last year, I participated in my first ever hackathon. So
Mhm.
if actually, I was not going to register for that. All my roommates at college they suggested that you should go for it. But what I have felt that as a beginner who has never participated in hackathons, uh, I feel like hackathons are all about developing products, and I haven't. I don't feel that I am confident enough. I don't feel that much of confidence that I can build a complete product even though it was a team event, but still there is this small lack of confidence. So how to deal with that and how to overcome that lack of confidence?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rush. So you said you have lack of confidence, right? So lack of confidence could be one of the two reasons. One, you're not well equipped with the skill, or second, you have faced challenges or failures way too many times. Now, for you to overcome those, what you really need to realize is that the only way to overcome a challenge or get confidence is to submerge yourself into the same activity over and over again until you see success. And if I know this correctly, tell me, how was your first experience when you participated in the hackathon?
Uh, it was an amazing experience. I would say that without, if you are participating for the first time, then try to collaborate with your team members, try to communicate with your team members. Otherwise, it will be a very difficult task because the hackathon in which I participated, it was a hiring. It was for a hiring for Dell. So the problem statement was a very good quality problem statement, which was currently based on a real problem faced by Dell Technologies. I think that other companies would be also providing such kind of problem statements. So to solve those, I think without the help of your team members, without having good communication skills, it will be very difficult. So that is what I tried to do. That I ensured all my doubts and all my queries were properly communicated with my team members, and we always we ensured that every day we used to sit together and do a progress check kind of thing and note down all the things, all the features we have implemented till now, or what are the challenges each one of us are facing. So proper work distribution, that all plays a huge role in doing well in hackathons, I think so. So it was an
Yeah,
amazing
excellent.
experience.
You're right, Akash. And I think, like, like you said, collaborating with your team is very important. You rightly said so, because, well, what you really see in a hackathon is that the people around you are so inspiring, are so driven, and so passionate about technology that even the vibe that they create, the surroundings that you're in, that just instills you and like focuses you to do better and to like innovate better, and just you come across as a better programmer once you're done with the hackathon. So you're right.
Exactly, and we get to learn a lot of new technologies and new things which we might not have touched if we were not participating in a hackathon. Like
Right.
it was the first time we built Chrome extension, so it was a great thing to know. Like we don't have any experience with JavaScript. Still, the problem statement demanded. We thought of a solution for doing that. We needed to develop that particular feature using JavaScript, so we had to learn it. So that also
Right.
helped us learning things in a short span of time. We get to learn some new things and implement it. It feels good.
Yeah, you're right. I think JavaScript, like, so I also built a few of browser extensions at my tenure at at Amazon. What I found amazing about browser extensions are, one, they're so dynamic, like they can work on any tool and like kind of play with any HTML DOMs, and it can work on any tool, very scalable, right? And that's something that I built. So yeah, good going ahead. Okay, any more
I would
questions?
Yeah, so let's see. Ranu Sharma has a question. There are many hackathons conducted all over India by almost every college. So, how to distinguish which hackathon should we participate in, and what will be the benefits from that?
That's a great question, Anu. So the question is how to identify the right hackathon for you. So before you identify the right hackathon for you, just understand the hackathons that are being put out. Are these hackathons that let you innovate completely freely? Are these hackathons that require you to learn a specific skill? and are these hackathons that are hiring based hackathons, and then you align your interest with it. Like if you have specific skill knowledge and you want to learn more on that front, you should participate in skill based hackathons, and so on and so forth. But what I would suggest is that it's important to know what your priorities are and then align the hackathons for yourself. The hackathons should work for your vision, not the vice versa.
Exactly. Uh, we have another question from Ramya. How to make a final pitch for the hackathons in the final round as a
I
beginner?
know. Yeah, that's a great question, Amya. I think okay, so to make the final pitch, right? Like so, depending on your GD and your problem statement, a few things that you should definitely touch upon when you're making the final pitch is one, definitely highlight the impact that you're creating, the business impact. A lot of times what happens is, like I said, developers build something very technical and very amazing, something which is extremely scalable and plug and play adoption kind of a thing, but they're not able to explain why this hack is better than the rest and what business impact this will create. Another thing I would highly recommend is that when you're doing the final pitch, it always helps if you've done a lot of research about the company, because that way the company knows that you've actually studied them and their product really well enough for you to come up with something that gives you an edge over actually the rest of the competitors, because you seem more keen and more read and more educated than your peers.
Exactly. On the same lines, Shayan Nath has a question. Uh, Business model is more important or the technical prototype in hackathons?
Okay, right. So and like let's take a step back and understand why these two things are different, right? Or if they're different at all. Uh, so you're building a prototype to solve something, right? And that solving is either the company has put out that challenge because they're facing this challenge, they're losing a lot of money, or they're not able to break disrupt the market, or they're not able to find the right way their technology can scale, right? Both of these things, any technology decision is always backed by a business decision within a company. So if there is a technical problem that has been given out, it has some cost attached to it and some business relevance attached to it. If it's not an immediate cost, it's going to be a cost that is going to be incurred later. You have to identify that and then tie it to your prototype. A prototype that actually solves a technical problem but that doesn't save money and it's too expensive to actually build and to adopt will probably not get you far. It's not going to some it's not being it's not something that will get you to win a hackathon. So I would always suggest that you should keep in mind that every prototype that you build should be backed by a business model or something which has a business impact.
Exactly. Yeah, that actually that was one point we even faced during our previous hackathon we organized at our club. The judges were putting a lot of stress on the business model part too. So I hope our viewers should understand that both things are important. Okay, we have our next question here. With the current pandemic, do you see the scope of conducting hackathons ahead?
Hey, though, thanks for that question. That's a great question and a very cool, very cool point of view as well. Um, so fair question, right? So like I said, historically we know that hackathons are something that people get together in an on-site event and physically are present there. People actually can walk up to each other, talk to each other. But with the current situations, we'll have to adapt, right? And that adaptation is that you need to collaborate remotely. So there are a lot of companies like Hacker, and I'm sure there are other companies as well who can host virtual or online hackathons. So you don't have to necessarily meet people. You can collaborate with them within their platform, online and virtually. And you can do that real time as well. And you can, while you're pitching your idea to the jury joins a virtual online room, and you can have a real time one-on-one conversations. So I don't think it's going to take a lot of it. It's just going to change the way we have looked at hackathons so far.
Exactly. We have another question from Roli. Sir, if we participate in an innovative hackathon and win, how shall we begin with the product? Because we now have an idea with an immature business plan.
Hmm.
So basically,
Really, that's
take
a That's a smart question. But I'd say that I don't think you have an immature plan, or you wouldn't have won it. You wouldn't have won the hackathon. So maybe you're underestimating yourself here. I would say that your business plan is probably needs something that could use a little bit of refinement. But if your prototype is something that has won, or the product is ready to plug and play, you should actually seek. So mentors or jury are always ready to actually help you in business plan, and actually optimizing the cost, because that basically means that more cost saving for them, right? If you won an innovation hackathon and your jury has said that, hey, this is a hackathon, this is a product that makes complete sense to us, and it's cheaper to install, and it's very scalable, uh, I think half of the battle is won there. The only thing that's left is to optimize your business plan. Your mentors and your jury can actually help there. And uh, and what I suggest, if everything fails, you can still come back to us or any developer community leaders and ask them to connect you to somebody who has done multiple hackathons, and they can help you with it.
Uh, we have another question from Ramya. She's asking about what kind of technologies do have a scope in winning or getting hired.
Great. So what kind of tech has a scope of getting hired? So, very cool, Ramya. Like, that's a good question. So right now, I see a lot of buzz around Kotlin, and I think that's something that a lot of developers are focusing at. This is a very dynamic question, like dynamic answer, because based on the latest technology, things change. Of course, AI/ML has been dominating the market since long now, but ever since Google has released Kotlin or Flutter, and there's Azure, which has been disrupting the market slowly and steadily. That's also something that you can look at when you're winning and getting hired. But more importantly than the tech stack, it depends. It depends what kind of tech stack suits best for your hack, rather than actually using the tech stack just for the sake of it.
Exactly, Ramya. I would say that in my first hackathon, even we didn't knew what kind of technologies we are going to use for the problem statement. Like when we read the problem statements for the first time, we thought, okay, we'll build a website, and like for building a website, there are so many frameworks, there are so many technologies. What we have to do? So there was one member in our team who knew a little bit of Django, so we just started building with that. But then later we realized that the problem statement, we faced a kind of problem which required fetching some data. So we needed, now we what we have to do is how to get that data. uh, the problem, according to the problem statement, if a company actually implements that in a real industrial scenario, they would get that data from various kind of agencies who collect data, like ad agencies. But for us in an hackathon, we do not have access to ad agencies to get user behavior data. So how will we test our product? So what we did was we created a Chrome extension. So what it did was it was installed in the client side, and it whenever the client would open any other websites from the target website which we were expecting the client to open, we would just use a simple web scraping code to take the user search history and all the related terms which he searched. We had some keywords. We were just tracking if the user is searching those keywords and what the results, what he's getting results in other websites. So these kind of you will not initially, you will not understand what kind of technology you are going to use, but as you participate, as time passes, you will face certain small problems and then come up with innovative solutions to that. Then you will realize that, oh my god, you need to use some other technology too. You cannot limit yourself to one particular technology. You have to be creative and think on the spot. I hope that is correct,
Yeah,
Cherish.
that's well put, Akash. Yeah, that's well put.
Yeah. So let's see, we have a next question. uh, Yeah, Rishabh has a good question here. How do you handle the constant need to over engineer your hack in hackathon?
um, that's great. That's a great question. I'd say have a diverse team. Have a team that can keep a tab on you. Have a team that is diverse enough. Do a beta testing. Uh, Take your hack, give it to somebody who's not very technically advanced, and give them feel if it's feel. Give them your hack or your product and understand how they interact with it. Really watch them and observe. If it's too hard for them, or if it feels too robotic and too distant, you probably have over engineered your hack. But that's a very common problem amongst engineers, right? Because they really want to do everything possible, right? Like a proper typical engineer would come up with plan B, plan C, feature 1 to 10, then you have feature 1 11 to 15 in the pipeline. That's very obvious for any engineer. But at the same time, like, good products are not which have a lot of features. Good products are those which have higher usability, right? And that's something that you can learn uh, whenever you do your user testing or your beta testing. If you have a diverse team, like a designer or somebody who's from a business background, they can keep a tab on you and ask you to, hey, just calm down a little.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Shrirup has a question here. Do you think hardware-based hackathons will receive great backslash due to the current situation? That's a good
Hmm.
question.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. That's a possibility, because what usually happened is that a lot of hackathons which were hardware based, some of the hardwares were either brought in by the developers, or some of the hardware products were given by the company on the site of the hackathon. That's actually a possibility, right? Now we need to understand they can be two ways. Either the target audience is going to get reduced, hardware hackathons are going to only be for people who have the hardware with them, or the other way, for companies to actually who host hardware hackathons, they're going to simulate a behavior where you don't need a hardware anymore, so that you can hack and innovate right from your home. So one of these two things can happen, and I think the possibility of latter is more, because every company, even though they come from a hardware based background, they still want to innovate, right?
Yeah. Uh, Snigdha has a good question here. As different individuals who are part of a team, there might be a conflict of ideas among them. So, how do you go around resolving them to arrive at a conclusion?
That's a very good point, Singha. But you need your so good thing you fixed this in a hackathon than rather doing it in your career, in your professional setting, right? And this is exactly what I mean. A lot of these problems, a lot of these issues will come during the hackathon, and you'll have to solve it, than actually solving it at your career on your job. And once you've solved them, right, you'll realize that you're more employable and easily hired by other companies. But to answer your question, how must we? How? What are the what is the conflict? Uh, the way I approach conflict is that, one, I write down exactly what the contention is, exactly what we're trying to establish. It's sometimes more nuanced than just like either we do A or we do B. Sometimes it has to be a little more nuanced than we can do a bit of A, a bit of B, but what should we prioritize? I would say always tie back to the problem statement and the business relevance. And if one of you or if your teams can justify uh, which approach can fetch you a better result in terms of either tech or business or various other facets, I think that should be prioritized. But that's something that you should learn, and you'll get better at it the more you participate in hackathons.
So, uh, Vanshika has a question here. Can you tell few areas for which participants can look up to mentors during mentorship sessions?
Great, Anshika. I think that's a great question. So, right. So some of the mentors that have helped me were usually from the people who have organized the hackathon. They were either part of the jury or the organizers. They realized for them that it is important that the quality of submission is higher. So they usually reach out to them for mentors. At the same time, what I would say is you can reach out to previous hackathon winners, some people that I featured, some of the subject matter experts at Hacker Earth. Some of these people, right? They've done this time and again, and they know what works best and what doesn't. Um, I'd say like the go-to strategy for you to get a mentorship is to ask your subject matter experts from the point of view, or you can come back or at least they'll be able to point you in the right direction.
Indeed.
You can
Uh,
also ask it social, like on social platforms like LinkedIn and anything. You can post about your hack and ask for mentorship.
yes, having a good network on LinkedIn helps a lot. We have our next question by Abhishek. what should be the strategy of building teams for hackathons, like in terms of domains involving tech, business, or management?
Okay, got it. So, Abhishek, like I would say, so it's not a straightforward answer. Like you should have one tech person, one designer, and one management. I'd say whichever hack that you develop building, understand what is the problem statement. If problem statement extremely technical, like an ML AI based hackathon, right? Um, Having a designer there, unless it's a UI based app, doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, they're looking at things like recall, precision, coverage. So having technical people in those hackathons makes more sense. But if it's something which is more business oriented, like for instance somebody like you're doing a hackathon where you have to say build for 1 billion people, you have to install a few hardware throughout India. That is where the cost part comes in, and that's where it's important for you to have somebody from a management experience. And at the end, and lastly, if you have somebody who is well versed with technology like cloud and anything, you can involve them for any product based hackathons like we had just discussed.
Yes. Uh, we have a question from Smriti. Smriti is asking, what are the top skills? Again, I think we have answered this question, but let's say, can you tell us some absolute basic necessities of participating in a hackathon?
So I'd say just jump right in, and you'll realize it yourself firsthand. But if you have to study and you're one of those people who like to come prepared to the meeting, I'd say go brush up your DS algo skills. Just do a basic overview of how depending which year you're in, you can do you can refresh your oops concepts and just go ahead and dive into it.
So, actually, I had a question from this. Looking at this, you just said OOPS concepts. Apart from OOPS, do you think students should also focus on some other very important topics that are taught in their BTech or whatever technical degree they are currently pursuing?
Right. No, that's that. Makash, so you raise a valid point. In so the first thing that whenever there is a jury out on your hack, the first thing that they want to look at is your system architecture, right? They want to look at the design of the entire architecture, what you've done, and that's something that's usually overlooked at college in colleges sometimes because people are focused in learning hoops and DS algo and things like that. A lot of times, the way you structure your entire system is very important and just gives jury the confidence that you'll be if you can think something great overarchingly, you'll probably be better at fixing the details also, right? So I would say also study system architecture and design. That's something that's usually overlooked and something is very essential for any hacker.
True. Uh, Vanshika has a good question. As we all know, you are also a community guy. What keeps you motivated to work for the community? What's exciting? What makes you exciting?
Honestly speaking, you guys, people like you, who have the zeal and the passion to make something of themselves, to actually and do something for their career. It gives me a great joy when I see somebody do something well. I think it's the best sight in the world if when you see something doing what they really love, the sparkle in their eyes, the passion that exudes from them. That's the best high I can get. And I think the minute I see it, it feels like I've solved some purpose in my life, and that's why I keep doing it.
Okay. We have another question from Ramya. What, according to you, does the judges look for in a hackathon? What do they commonly evaluate in our ideas or prototypes?
Right. Fair, Amna. So some of the things that are very commonly looked at are first is the feasibility. The feasibility of your idea. You can't be asking if somebody is like, how will you? You can't be putting out something which is unrealistic and something which is improbable to build. So you should check the feasibility analysis. The second I would say is the novelty in your idea. A lot of times what people do is that they come up with a solution that's either been built or is in production by some other company or somewhere other in a different country. So you should be a little novel so that people can see, hey, this is something creative and genius, and we should probably give this a chance. The third is the impact. Impact is something that you can actually quantify, and that's very important. Impact could be a technical impact or also a business impact. If it's a technical impact, you can show the performance numbers, or if it's a business impact, you can show the costs that is saved, or even the soft impacts like your reputation in the market, or your thought leader establishment, things like these. All these things are just as important as one, and you can give it an entire umbrella and try and evaluate yourself before you actually give it out to the jury to evaluate it.
Okay. Another question from Smriti Nayak. How do you choose a problem statement for hackathon?
Okay, Smriti. So I assume that you are asking this from a developer standpoint, right? And this is not something that business has come out with, right? So how do you choose a problem statement, right? Okay, so a problem statement theoretically has a challenge for you and also a domain. It has a domain that you need to build X in this domain, and that X should solve a few problems, right? Now, if these are both of these things, is something that you should be well versed with if you're actually picking up a problem. If you end up solving, let's say, in a domain that you're very comfortable at, for instance, you trying to solve a fintech problem, right? And the technology that they've asked you to use is blockchain. You could be comfortable in fintech but not blockchain. So that just brings down your point a little. And it could be the opposite also. You're great at blockchain, but you're good at digital contracts, or like serverless servers, right? And these things may not be completely relevant to the problem statement that has been put out. I'd say you need to evaluate your domain and also the problem statement that has been asked, and see if you get well versed with both of them. And if anything you think can fall short, you should pick another problem statement. There are usually more than one problem statements for a hackathon.
Yes. Uh, Actually, I have one question. Suppose for someone who has just completed their 4 years at college now, they are looking for platforms to participate in hackathons. So, are there any opportunities for those people who are like no longer a student at, but they have entered a professional scenario?
I see what you mean, and this is a it's a very prevalent question, because a lot of people whose internships were lined up or whose jobs offers were there, they got revoked because of the COVID situation. So recently, I think a lot of people are doing it. Even Twitter is doing something like that. But Hackathons did something for people who were graduating in 2020, and they hosted a challenge which would fetch them an internship. I'd say always be on a lookout for them. Find a few hackathon leaders in the market and keep checking their website. Usually, a lot of companies who want to hire developers in these times, they'll only come to a place their developer community is huge, so that they can tap a larger market in one go. So you can go ahead and look those often.
Okay. Uh, Vanshika has a question here. Can you give some more insights to build fintech innovations? How to go about it?
Vanshika, I'm so sorry. I'm not a fintech guy, but I can definitely get back to you on this.
Okay, let's see. Uh, I don't think we have any more questions. Well, we'll wait for people to join or to put in some more questions. They must be thinking right now. So, I would like to ask you, can you share your experience in any of your past hackathon?
Right. So this is a hackathon. We it was called the Missing Child Hackathon. This was
Interesting.
hosted in 2014 by Google Developers Group in Chandigarh, Panchkula. So it was an image recognition based hackathon where any child that has gone missing in the Tri City, in Tri City is fairly small, right? Like you can cross end to end in like 20 minutes, or maybe 30 minutes. So what happens is that there are barely any incoming of a lot of migrants or any unknown suspicious activities. So what we really wanted to do was any homeless or any person who has been missing in the city, we really wanted to find them a home and send them back where they were from. right? And this was a city-wide problem. So what we were trying to solve was built an app that every citizen can use, because every citizen can really encounter a homeless citizen just like any of us. That the probability is equal. So we built something like this. We had a person who was great at image recognition algorithms. He built something like this, but we didn't win it, right? We didn't win because probably it wasn't feasible enough, or probably the product lacked the right nuances, or it wasn't up to the mark, so to say. But what we realized from that hackathon is the ability to think for an entire city, the ability to think to build a product which a city of maybe 10 lakh people, or maybe 12 lakh, or maybe 50 lakh people can use. Now that was the only learning that we got, that that stayed with us so strongly. We learned that even though you may not win at a hackathon, you come out with a learning, which is a great learning, right? Like building for a million developers. It's a massive learning. Now you're looking at every perspective, every user, and every scope that you can encounter. And for me, that was very rewarding. And I think the fact that I built on something like that at that scale probably helped me get a job at Amazon. And we built a product like this, and we got the government to adopt it, through which we got credibility, and from that credibility we started a startup where we built products and services for, well, mostly products for small and medium businesses in the Tri-City.
Interesting. So that's amazing. Actually, so I would like to tell our viewers, so participating in hackathons is not just about winning, it's about the entire experience. Like you get to learn a lot from them. Like you get to learn how to think, you like get to learn how to work with a team and how to uh, approach problems with an innovative solution, and basically it's a good training for your brain also. So one should always try to participate, at least for students in who are there in first year and second year. I would ask them to look into hackathons too. We have Dhruva. He is asking, okay, so I think he is going to participate in SIH. So his team consists of beginners in C, then Pi, Android, and web dev. Is this a good team? And they are also improving on DS algo skills as they are in first years.
Well, I'm not the right person to judge on somebody's skills and capabilities, but what I would recommend, there's a person called T.R. Rohit. He was the finalist for Smart India Hackathon in 2019. He went to Singapore, met Mr. Modi, and the entire deal. He has been closely associated with hackathons at Hackathon. What I can do is you can write to me on Hacker on my LinkedIn, or even find him directly, and I'll help you get in touch with him. I think Rohit's the best person to probably guide you here because he's participated in a Smart India Hackathon before.
Okay, Dhruva,
He was also the finalist, I believe. Yeah.
okay,
Sorry.
I think Cherish, you can give us the LinkedIn profile link for that. We can put that in the description later on in the video after the stream is over.
Sure.
Also, Vanshika is asking about your Medium blog. So I think we can put that link also. So after the stream, Vanshika, make sure you check the video description. The link to the blog will be there. Or if you like, Cherish, you can show it on the stream right now. If you can share your screen and if you want to.
Sure. I can quickly show you how to build. This is the blog. I'll just quickly copy paste it here. I won't share my screen per se because that'll be a little more thing. But hold on, let me just quickly paste it here in the private chat, and you can put it out for the developer for the community.
Yes, I got the link. Here you go, Vanshika. Please check the chat section. I hope the link is there. Uh, let's see. Again, Priyanka is asking what are the programming languages she should begin with for hackathon. Any comments on this, Teresh?
I think we answered this. I really like
Yes,
the question you had put up before this. I think, how has
yes.
DSC helped you?
Actually, I was going to ask you that. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you please throw some light on this?
Right. Anshika, so DSC is what we know it as now, but before this it was called Google Student Club, or something that a Google Student Ambassador would lead, right? So that was my first taste in community. I was handpicked by Google, and we went to Pune. We had a 4 day summit, and I realized the power of developer communities. I strongly believe that developers are the ones, and entrepreneurs and developers together are the ones who will change the world, right? And these people are not getting the right support and the guidance and also the right pathway to excellence. If we want to change the world, you either be a developer or an entrepreneur who's there and actually helping them, or you be a somebody like a community person who's enabling them to reach that goal. And that has always been my tenet. And I've always tried to enable to the best of my capabilities.
Exactly. So actually, we here at DSC KIIT are also trying our best to ensure that the community gets the correct guidance. So we have been conducting many webinars for the community so that we can meet people like Cherish and learn from their experiences. So let's see. There is one very unique question. He's by Jatin. He's asking about spiritual apps that work with AI. What do you think of this idea?
That's a fantastic idea, Jonathan. And I just to give you like the relevance of it, I think spiritual industry is taking a huge surge right now. I think right now it's so just to tell you the few two popular apps that are into spirituality are a meditation app called Headspace and another called Calm. So Headspace is evaluated at 300 odd million dollars, and Calm is actually a $1 billion evaluated company. I think with the times that there are right now, especially with COVID, right, the mental space and mental health of a lot of people have actually taken a hit, and more. I think it's inevitable. A lot of people will lean into such spirituality and mindfulness, and somebody who's building an app or sharing any ideas or prototype in that space is going to do something which is more than just get it for more than just tangible benefits. They're helping humanity, and that's something that's extremely needed, and also there's a huge business scope to it. So I would strongly encourage you or your friends or anybody who's listening to this webinar to explore that opportunity. That's an amazing option.
Great. We have that was a good idea. Actually, there are apps. I have used Headspace, I think once, but it has a premium kind of uh, plan business model. So I had to
Yeah.
discontinue with that. But it was a good experience. These are some innovative ideas one should look out for. Uh, okay, there is a question by Ritik. He's asking the what he should go like competitive programming or hackathons. What are companies preferring these days?
But I'd say these are both like come from a different. Okay, let me tell you what the fundamental difference is. A competitive programming has a call to action, right? A competitive programming is basically to hire. So this is something which is either led by an HR team or somebody who's a hiring manager. Hackathons can either come from hiring managers or HRs, but they can also come from an innovation point of perspective, right? If your goal is to be a competitive programmer and upskill yourself every now and then so that you can use these points to switch a company or actually gain your dominance in the market, I would suggest go to competitive programming. If your allegiance is towards innovation and actually getting hired through hackathons or building something which is useful to the society and not just just upskill yourself, I'd say go for hackathons. They're equally popular for the teams and for companies. It really depends on what you want to do. If you want to build something, upskill yourself, you can go ahead and competitive programming. Some of them have hiring opportunities as well. If you want to build something which is really useful and really cool, I suggest go for hackathons.
Interesting. So, Cherish, I had this doubt. Like recently in our college, a company came. They conducted both things. Like first, they had a competitive coding round. Then they selected a few students from there. Then they asked those students to develop like solve problem statements. They were given some 5 to 4 problem statements. So it was kind of a mini hackathon. So we are observing that in our college, some companies are doing both. So what are your views regarding that?
That's a yeah. I think that's a good point. I think a lot of companies are going to probably use that model. They're both equally popular, and they both actually generate a lot of business value to the companies. Um, so not necessarily every company is going to approach that way. It primarily depends, like I said initially, that the challenge that you pick should align to your vision and not the vice versa. If there is a company who's doing a hiring challenge and hackathon both, and you get shortlisted in hiring challenge and then hackathon, do not get disheartened. There will be so many companies which will do just one or the other, and that is your time to shine.
So Vanshika is asking more about the DSC program. So can you share your time as a DSC, like developer student ambassador? So
Oh, yeah. Oof, it feels like long ago. Right. So I was actually a DSC core member before I was leading a DSC group. It was then called a GSC, but you understand the sentiment. I hired a bunch of people, and most of them got amazing jobs. Learned a lot of things during in the club. Not many of them stuck around with developer community space. They were actually more interested in development, and that brings me a lot of happiness too, because like I said, it brings me joy when I see people doing what they really love. To grow a community, it is always advised to think of your community as somebody like your family. So you want to step into their shoes, understand what their problems are, and be empathetic towards it. Now when I say empathetic, it also means take care of yourself, right? You can't prioritize them over you, because then you'll either burn, or you'll not be very active in the community, or you'll not care as much because it's taking a toll on you. So to grow your community, I would say to empathetically add value. Adding value is always something that community really, really trusts and admires. And empathy is something that will help you everywhere you go.
true. Actually, that is what exactly I have been experiencing right here at DSC KIIT. Our lead has been doing a great job in guiding us. Also, uh, I have faced sometimes this burning issue that you say that you put your mind in so much into the community activities that you forget there are other things too. But again, the joy of doing something for the community is a great thing.
Right.
Uh, okay, Ramya is asking another good question here. So, pretty some she is putting up some great questions for us. What was the motivation from shifting from Amazon to Hacker Earth? Exactly. Why would you go from a dream company like Amazon?
Yeah. If my hacker friends are watching this, I suggest you shut your computer right about now. But no, I would suggest no. I think dreams evolve. So if once a dream was Amazon, the dream evolved into doing something completely for communities, and that was my motivation to join Hacker. Hacker is a small company compared to Amazon. You learn faster. There's a great scope for you to actually learn and innovate really fast. I love the zeal people have here. I think a lot of people come in with a lot of enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm is being usually guided correctly. And the things that you can move in Hacker Earth in a week would usually take a lot more at Amazon. But at the same time, I love both the companies. I think both of them have taught me a lot. Amazon has taught me how to think right, and Hacker Earth is teaching me a lot how to execute right.
Exactly. It's all about learning from the experiences, no matter whichever company you're in. So, okay, I think we'll end this with this last question from Smriti. Uh, okay, how can you make your idea stand out? Like, suppose your solution, there are multiple teams all are coming up with the same solution. So how would you make sure that your solution stands out in an
Hmm.
hackathon?
Fair. So let's understand what creativity or creative or unique idea even means. Uh, for you to categorize any idea which is creative or unique, it has to be novel, like a new idea which is not there in the market. Two, it has some elements that were not thought of before. Um, right. If you're combining one thing that doesn't go with another at all, something I cannot imagine, right? Or like a lot of like there are musicians who now use glasses to play music. That's something that we had not imagined, right? You put one thing which doesn't necessarily fit into another and you make it work. That's creativity. Now how you actually foster that is having a diverse team, or at least having diverse experiences within yourself. Learn to look at the problems in a different way, approach it from different point of views and angles, to see if there is a completely different new thing which you cannot even think of, or typically can be involved here. That will make your idea unique. At the same time, for it to be unique and novel, you should do your research. If it's something that has been done before, that just comes out as either a lazy effort or a plagiarized product.
True, true, exactly. That is what even I have experienced in my last hackathon. That sometimes doing having a good research on the kind of users who are going to use your solution helps a lot in building a great product. So I think
Hmm.
that will be our last question. It was a great session today, I must say. There were some amazing questions. I can see there some of your Hacker Earth colleagues were also there, right? But it was amazing. I would like to thank all our viewers for giving us.
Yes.
Uh, okay, so I would like to thank each and every one of us. We have around a watching of 42 right now. That's a great number. So, with that, we come to an end of today's webinar. Also, the end of the entire series, because this was our last webinar. Because all the members of the community of DSC KIIT are currently preparing for their end semester examinations, as you can see on the social media promotions by our college that we are having online end semester examinations. So more power to technology. So let's see. Okay, with that, we come to an end. Thank you, sir. It was amazing to have you here. Now, I think we can end this stream. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye
Akash. Yeah,
bye.
thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, friends. Do like, share, and subscribe our channel. And good night, and have a nice day.